Three, two, one.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Radical Roots podcast. Today is February 13th, and what is this, our 11th episode?
Yep, it is our 11th episode.
11 episodes. Wow, 11 years young, 11 episodes young. I am your co-host, Payron Baxter,
I'm your co-host, Ram Sandoval. How y'all doing?
and we are the Radical Roots podcast where we dig deep to reach high, and it's always about progress through action. I'm still trying to figure out the transition there, Rom, to say those two things, but we may just end up putting together into one sentence. But yeah, if you are listening to this on YouTube or on one of the outlets like Spotify or one of the other podcast channels, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Most folks say tell five people. Now, Rom, I'm a little bit audacious. I want you to tell six people. Hell, maybe even seven. Because we want to turn this into a community. We want folks to join in. We want to hear questions. We want to be able to respond. I can't see the YouTube questions, or YouTube comments, but maybe Rom can maybe incorporate more folks from the audience who are listening live. But we want that. We want this to be a family, a community where folks are actually able to hear real talk and not some sort of corporatized mainstream spin from folks who are on the ground who do political work and what it means for us to make change in our local communities, our state, and at the national level. But on a lighter note, how you been, man? And tomorrow's Valentine's Day. What you got planned? Put you on the spot.
Valentine's Day. Ooh.
Ooh,
I,
it's
I
tomorrow, right?
yeah, we kind of got me and the girls got some things earlier this week ready, and already they were excited to give that to their mom, and so did a little celebration this past week. We don't have babysitters, so we're probably not going to go out or anything tomorrow. But what about you?
I get that, man. No babysitters. Same here. We have nobody lined up. Haven't called anybody. My sister lives like an hour away. My mom lives about an hour away in Gastonia and North Charlotte, respectively. So for us, probably, I mean, we went and just did the whole cards and you know, grocery store heart-shaped box, Stouffer's, if you will, and some balloons. But my wife is, she's amazing, and I try to make sure she feels appreciated every day, like a good husband. But yeah, I haven't actually. We don't have any plans for tomorrow. And when you have two kids and you start getting older, I mean, it does matter. I'm not saying none of the superficial stuff matters, but um, where we both are in the mindset of like let's keep it real. So we're all trying to push it forward, but yeah, nothing crazy. I might cook dinner tomorrow. My famous cinnamon toast steak. Throw something out there. Hey, look, man. Hey, don't. I'm joking. I don't know. But I might cook something tomorrow. Throw something in the oven and make it do what it do. Do you cook? Are you a cooker? Are you a
Uh,
chef?
I can cook. I like to when I cook. I like to get all the fresh ingredients,
Okay.
get everything just right. So I mean, yeah, I can throw it together sometimes, but when I do cook, I like to throw down. But it
What do
takes
you cook?
time and
What's
patience.
what's your thing? What's your like? Oh man.
New York strip, with usually like green beans or asparagus is my one
Okay.
of my favorites. I'm a burger guy, so I like cooking like gourmet burgers. I like cooking smash burgers, all
Ooh, I love
different
good
kinds.
smash.
Pineapple, barbecue, bacon, some like all kinds
Mm.
of different
Okay.
things, and
Okay, Ron.
sometimes a banh mi burger and things like that. So
Okay.
that's my thing. But
You just a regular
man,
Food Network, huh?
yeah.
Just a regular
Yeah.
driving the diners and dives. Triple D.
Yeah, but I went to Target, man. I went to Target this past few days. I had to make returns. I had to send
Oh,
some
well,
returns
that's
back.
different. That's
Yeah,
different.
I ain't break. I ain't break. I'm nowhere. I'm good. So my wife's holding strong. That's what's important because she is the Target shopper.
Yeah.
My mom has she's like, I got some credits. I'm like, all right, well, use those credits and that's it. Like
Sure. Yeah. Right.
you gotta nail it
You got
down.
you,
You
you got
got
to wean. You got to wean off. You got to wean off. In fact,
yeah.
we just went to Costco for the first time. We just got a Costco membership. Uh, Maybe the day that Al Sharpton did his black buyout, and we just went for the first time last weekend. So last Saturday, coming up on a week now, and yeah, we had a good time. One, the kids were worn out because they had to walk all through that giant store, and And by the time we got done, we got the food and stuff, and it was like, okay, this is different, and it had everything there, and the prices were pretty good actually. I was like, okay, I was expecting to spend like $200-300. We had a cart full of stuff. We had like $120. I was like, okay,
Oh,
this ain't too shabby. Okay, because you're expecting to spend a lot because you see all the big stuff. I'm like, okay, all right, but yeah, it's been a while since I shopped at a big box store like that, like a Sam's or a BJ's or one of these big box stores. But yeah, it was good, man. And yeah, I'm glad to see folks are staying strong. I saw a sister, she posted a video like she was I think she had to get her medicine from the CVS at a Target in some state. I don't know where she was. And she grabbed a basket and she said she felt like, it was God telling her, don't do this. She felt sick to her stomach. And she was like, I can't do this. So I'm glad folks are like, I don't want people to feel sick to their stomach, but I'm glad that they're having this guttural, visceral reaction to Target, because we should go where we're celebrated, and not disrespected. So
yeah, I think Target's the main objective. I mean, there's, I know I try to let my Amazon Prime expire, trying to stay off of
yeah,
that. I've always tried to stay off of Walmart, but we were looking for a mirror. We went to like quite a few stores in the area. Couldn't find it quite, and so we had to order it on Amazon, and we even tried to find it direct, and but right now Target's the main objective. But yeah, I think people try to think about shopping local, but some
right.
things is just the reality
Exhaust
is
all the options.
we've given Amazon so much power that you know they have a monopoly on a lot of things. So
Yeah, I mean, as I tell folks, exhaust all the options. Like me, I had to buy a book, and I couldn't find this book anywhere, and I had to get it off Amazon, and that was my one thing I bought. I'm like, okay, I'm good. So like, but I used to buy shit off Amazon like the way I breathe. Like, oh, I need a single battery for my car key, Amazon. A $2 battery. I'm gonna order it. But like now, I'm gonna do the legwork, do the actual going to the store, asking the clerk, seeing if I can find it. Oh, not this, with the other store, to make it make myself be a part of the economy and not be this kind of microwave to your door DoorDash economy that we have. I think that's honestly how we got Trump. But
yeah,
anyway, but so last week or this week, I should say, we both have been active. You went to the Monroe City Council meeting.
I did. I went to the Monroe City Council meeting. I wanted to speak,
That's a
sign up.
hoot.
I had some heat for the mayor. Didn't get to speak. There was another
Robert Burns.
yeah, Robert Burns. There was another speaker. I signed up on the wrong sheet. There's another leader in the community, Steven Stegall, and
Oh yeah,
he
change for
spoke on
Monroe.
a similar, yes, change for Monroe. He spoke on a similar what I subject, and about his tweets, right, and how divisive they are. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
Robert
mean,
Burns. Robert Burns is a motherfucker. Like he's a piece of shit for real. Like he is like a crazy, unhinged MAGA guy.
yeah, if you just look at his Twitter, I mean, he doesn't even talk about Monroe. He literally just cheerleads and piggybacks off of Trump and MAGA and co-signs everything. It's kind of sad actually, but
It
uh,
is.
um, but then it opened up with like two people speaking about trans in bathrooms and somebody else about patriots, and so I think it's going to be critical that people show up. On the left, people show up to voice their opinions on things, and be an alternative voice to these crazies out here. Especially local, state, again, is going to be ever so important as the federal government um, withers away. So there's a lot that people will need to do locally, because this being North Carolina being a purple state, it's going to be a battle.
Right.
So it's not like we're not in a firm red state. We're not in a firm blue state. And I don't know what that means. So I don't know what's ahead.
No, yeah, and it's funny. Like when I hear people say stuff like, "Oh, these folks were led astray, and these folks, they were deceived." I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I mean, look at let's use Robert Burns, the mayor of Monroe, North Carolina, as an example. This is someone who he does believe that black people and people of color are inferior to him. He does believe that trans people are not people. He does believe gay people are equivalent to pedophiles or whatever the case may be. Like he believes those things. He was not ran astray. Now what's happening is that people are like, well, when folks are finding out on the FAFO situation, they were led astray. They didn't vote for this. And it's like, no, they did. They did vote for this. They voted for to harm other people. I think George Carlin said years ago that the difference between the left and the left cares about people and cares about humanity, and the right cares about property and profits. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But like, as I think about it more as an adult, really, the right does care, but they care about the cruelty, right? The cruelty is the point. They care that a black person can get strangled by Daniel Penny on the subway. They like that shit. That's a feeling that they want to emote again, right? They care that Palestinians are being killed, but in waves, right? Like, so this idea that, or they care that women are dying in cars. They care that people are going to be even more bad off, right? So like there is a level of like they do care. Um, and I think that's what's really shocking at this whole moment. But I just wanted to kind of break that part up about that whole thing. But anyway, moving from one local Nazi to a national story of Nazis. Um, was it? I mean, it's been a while since we connected. The last time we connected was before the Super Bowl, so it's been over a week. Sorry, my daughter's walking in here right now. Um, it's been over a week, so we've had the Super Bowl in between, and we've had some time. But in between episodes, um, there was a story in Ohio of some local national socialist in Germany, is what they used to call themselves, that felt that they had the courage and audacity to march on a bridge and show their hate. And they thought it was going to go one way, and it ended up going another way. So let's play a little piece of that clip of what happened in Lincoln Heights, Ohio.
All right, and
You
I
skip past that part.
apologize if Instagram it looks a little funky. Oh, okay, good. There it goes. It's good enough. Oh, let me get the sound in. Hold on, I'll start that over real quick.
But we can skip
So,
her part.
y'all, a white supremacist group decides to show up in a U-Haul with covered faces and those Yahtzee flags doing that uh, Yahtzee salute. But I
My
want
heart
you to
goes out
wait
to
till
you.
the end to see how our people responded.
So if you guys are listening in, there is a phalanx of cowardly Nazis walking across the street. They have these black flags with red swastikas. All their faces are covered because they are your local dentists, doctors, lawyers, and policemen. Um, and then they go to this overpass, and they all have their Yahtzee flags out, their freak flags flying high, quite proud of themselves. And then Rom, who shows up? The folks show up. And again, if you're not watching this, then honestly, the black community showed up. And they ran them off. It's always a good day to punch a Nazi.
And burn a
And they
Nazi
took
flag.
their flag and they burnt their flag. So you could pause it there. But as we talk about what's happening right now across the country, and even here in Monroe, right? We're talking about how Robert Burns is he's a white Christian nationalist, right? So he would agree with what these people espouse. Of course, no one's going to say I agree with Nazis. I agree with um, I agree with the Nazi Party, but there's ways they couch that. They couch that by saying I care about families. I care about the master race, or I hate DEI. That's the it's the contrast. But black folks showed up, and they threw canned vegetables at them, and one of the dudes got hit in the neck, and he got the hell out of there. But the video before that, they were up on the bridge, calling folks the N word, and all this other stuff, and they felt big and bad, Ron. They felt big and bad. Like again, Robert Burns is a great example of how these white Christian nationalists feel emboldened right now in this moment, and you see how emboldened they can get.
Yeah, it's not good. Just so far, I'm having a little bit of sound issue, so I can hear you cutting it out for me. So just in case, like I'm like non-responsive or something, it's just because I didn't hear you. But
Oh man.
Yeah, let's move on in. Yeah, I mean that. Thank you for bringing that one.
But I was going to say
What else
about
we got?
Lincoln Heights, about
Hmm.
Lincoln Heights.
Hmm.
Lincoln Heights was it is the oldest and it was the first and the oldest self-determined place above the Mason-Dixon line for black people. So to this day, it is the most black area. So that they went there specifically, right? Lincoln Heights was the first place and the oldest place where black people had their own self-determination in the state of Ohio, and honestly above the Mason-Dixon line. So there's a lot of history of them black folks being like, "You're not going to come here and do that." So I thought that's something that we should definitely amplify because as we talk about black defense and what it means to protect oneself, and it's more than just your body, it's your legacy and what you allowed to let happen. And I think the citizens of Lincoln Heights said, "Not today, not today."
Yeah, there's strength in numbers, and that's I think it's important to get out there. And what I saw is like I saw a group of black folks on the front line. I'm hoping to see coalitions. I'm hoping to see everyone under the sun step up to Nazis and what's happening today. So um,
Yeah,
they're
not to make don't make common cause with Nazis. Don't try to better understand them or meet them in the middle because I mean, you're really showing your hand if you're trying to do that.
yep. What else we got?
Well, keep bring it back to North Carolina. We did some Monroe. I used to live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which when I lived there from 2000, like 2010 to 2014. It's about 3.5, 4 years. And the largest military base in America is there. And at the time, it was called Fort Bragg. Now, I didn't know any of the history back then. I was just a young dude out here in the streets. I was outside back then. I wasn't woke. I wasn't understanding. I didn't know history. But Fort Bragg at the time was named after a Confederate trader's general. And under Joe Biden, after he won in 2020, and we had the quote unquote racial awakening, and statues of Confederate generals started to go down, Fort Bragg was renamed to Fort Liberty. That's a very simple name, right? It's a good name, right? It's Liberty. We all seem to like liberty, freedom, right? But this clearly was a bee in the bonnet of the right for years. They seem to side with the traitorous Confederates, enslavers of the past, right? The folks that shot against the United States of America that led to the bloodiest war in American history, 600,000 deaths over 5 Aprils. So our DUI hire, Department of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, white Christian nationalist with his Jerusalem cross tattoos, chose to rename the base from Fort Liberty to Fort Bragg. Now, he says it's about a different Bragg, a man named was it Roland Bragg? I mean, okay,
Bullshit.
like no one's gonna be like, oh, I'm on Fort Roland. No, it's Fort Bragg, right? I tell you what, Ron, that train runs on time. That racist train is always on time.
Oh yeah. It's the stir up culture, like that's if that's the most pressing issue. No, it's stir up the cultural divide. Give some red meat, especially down here in the South. The Confederate, like somebody told me today, because I have like a picture of Harris sign in my Facebook profile. Like, Harris lost, take your on your sign. I'm like, well, one, it's a
Yeah,
picture, so like,
right.
two, like you're probably the same person still flying around a Confederate flag for so that's Hexeth's priorities. I mean, Hexeth. While we're on the subject of Hexeth, he's kind of embarrassing himself on the world stage.
Oh yeah,
Um, he's he's getting a lot of criticism for how they're negotiating with Russia. They're just kind of capitulating. It probably is part of the plan to let Russia take over based off of Tulsi getting confirmed, Pete getting confirmed. There's a very pro-Russia White House, so
that's right.
but if they were trying to negotiate, he does not know how to negotiate. The art of the deal. It's kind of sad, really, what we have here with these two, master negotiators. So
master class. I'm telling you, they could teach you. They can negotiate the way out of a paper bag. Because I think what P. Hex says say that the idea that Russia would go back to its 2014 borders is ridiculous or is impossible or something like that. And it's like, well, that's why the fight was going on, right? Is because land was already seized in 2014, and that's illegal. You cannot take land by force. That is a part of the NATO rules and the UN's rules of how you actually acquire land. You don't do that. You do that through diplomacy and negotiation if you have to. But again, most of the territory on the planet at this point has been, quote unquote, called for. But yeah, Pete Hegseth, our DUI hire is just a terrible example of how didn't earn it, for their version of what DEI stands for, and how this was always the game. And it's almost like this 9-year-old, and I say that because I have a 9-year-old, this 9-year-old understanding of like how the government works. It's like the government needs to work like, the He-Man Woman Hitters Club, and that's how the government should work because I'm a big boy. And it's like, dude, what? What are you
yeah,
talking about? Like,
there's a rude awakening on the horizon in terms of putting unqualified people in these positions, and a lot of these positions.
Yep.
Even if their goal is to wreck and shut down a department, there's a certain way to do things. It's going to end bad in a lot of different ways, and a lot of ways that are unforeseen, things that we really have a hard time imagining right now, because if you consider the depth and breadth of the government and what they do, and taking a wrecking ball to that all at once, it's gonna backfire on this administration. I do believe that. I do think that they're so brazen about how they're approaching these things, and kind of ignoring the law, ignoring judicial warnings, that the only reason that one would do that is because they know they will never be held accountable. So I do question if we actually do have a 2026 election, because I do think the 2026 election will probably favor Democrats should there be a free and fair election. Even though you're not really seeing, like, we're not seeing like the major effects is starting to happen. I'm talking to people who are starting to be affected directly, people who they're not targeting, white men.
Right.
Like they're all of a sudden their business is being affected in certain ways. They had a contract canceled, these little things. Every nonprofit isn't some DEI nonprofit. Every DEI is not black and brown DEIs, or there's farmers, there's handicapped, there's veterans. So there's just all these things, and the way that they're going about these things, it's amateurish, and especially Elon. Like, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent, but Elon talking in the Oval Office this week, and he really has no idea what he's doing, to a degree, right? He knows he's slashing and he's cutting things, but they read one line, and then they're like, oh, DEI. Have no idea
That's
what
all
it
they
is.
got.
Or,
I mean, and also as we know, we've had six airplanes just fall out of the sky and crashes. There was another, it was an aircraft carrier wrecked into something else today. I mean,
there's too, it's not coincidence, and a lot of these things will not be in what I've been saying in the past 2 months, I guess 2 months ago, or maybe even longer, when Cash Patel was announced. I don't think anyone signed up for our defense being weakened, our homeland defense being weakened. And when you put somebody, again, unexperienced, and they're focused on revenge instead of actually protecting the country, I do think that's going to backfire on us. And no one's signing up to get attacked, and to weaken our defensive. There's been so much time put into it. And I'm not, and sit here and be like an FBI fanboy, and realize
Right.
how they leveraged 9/11 to surveil and infringe on rights, but at the same
Right. I
time,
know what you mean. Yeah.
it's just not what they signed up with, even Republicans. And
Well, also too, like we can't forget there's a terrible problem right now with recruiting in the military.
Mhm.
Right? They've been having terrible recruitment numbers over the past, I want to say 7, 8 years. And this is only going to make it worse because now, you may have to end up shooting your own people on the streets of America, or you're going to have to go occupy a place that is actively committing genocide. So you're literally on the side of the new Nazis, or they might stick you in a battalion with a bunch of white supremacists who don't know how to, they don't have any of the aptitude to actually be in the military, and planes are falling out the sky. And now you're in the cockpit with Johnny Go Lightly, and now you're like, oh my God, like, can I make it out of here? So like the recruitment numbers have already been down. And I want to remind people that until you actually go to basic training, you can back out of the military. A lot of people think like when you take your picture, you put your hand on the Bible, you take your oath, none of that shit matters until you go to basic training. Once you go to basic training, you're in. So there's a little FYI. If you have not gone to basic training, you can leave them. You can leave. The recruiter, they're going to try to, like, of course, coerce you back into joining the military. They're going to say, "Oh, are you sure you made the right decision?" Of course, they have to say that, but they're not going to spend too much time on that because they have to find the next person to replace you. So I just want to make sure folks know that what you're signing up for, you still do have an out if you are actively trying to, weigh your options. And I get that. I get that. This is a wild rogue regime, and I don't know if I want to be a foot soldier for Mr. Jerusalem Cross that believes all Muslims must die, and women shouldn't be in the military, and black people are unqualified by sheer dint of their color of their skin. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's an interesting time coming on the horizon with when the military is going to be asked to violate the Constitution, follow unconstitutional orders, and it's going to come down to the brass, who are slowly and probably surely becoming yes men, loyalists,
Or being kicked out.
traitors, and then the people they command under them having to follow those orders, even knowing that they're wrong. I saw another thing where the Department of Defense is no longer recruiting at Black engineers event,
I saw that.
which
Yeah.
it's like Black engineers, they're qualified for certain tasks. This is where DEI in its essence is. You're going to the top places to find the best talent in different areas, diverse areas. And I said, well, shit, if they're stopping to recruit and Black engineers, you know what? If I was a Black man of age and that trying to figure out my way,
Yeah.
my path, I don't think I would want to be joining the military at this time, fighting for what's turning into a white supremacist,
Yeah.
authoritarian regime that is going to
Right.
be asked to do some very bad. I mean, they're already starting to go to the border, which deployed here in the homeland for the military. That's not the National Guard. That's hasn't
Mm-hmm.
happened in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to see more and more of that. And this is just the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, so we're not even a month in yet, but things are still
Right.
moving fast. That's the crazy part. So
That's right. We're not even a month in. I mean, sometimes I forget that because this administration is in dog years, and it's wild because a lot of folks feel like we're seeing the FAFO videos, but I have very little sympathy for that at this point, because the information's out there. I heard a guy on satellite radio today calling in about how Elon is finding all this fraud, and we're going to get into that next, about the unbridled lawlessness, and we can get into that now. But there's this unbridled lawlessness happening right now in the Trump administration. Excuse me, the Musk Trump administration, because Musk has been going in through, he's been doing his whole ransacking of all these offices. I think we have a clip of Maxwell Frost going into was it the Department of Education earlier this week,
yes, let me pull
and,
that up.
and all being led by the Doge clowns. But yeah, it's sad right now. Oh, here we go. Here's the clip.
Multiple members of Congress. We're here to go to the Department of Education to fight for education, and they have locked the doors. They're not letting us in. It says all access to entrance. There's this random guy out here who's refusing to let us in.
His name is
And right here, What's his name?
His name is Jim Hairfield.
And right here, they have armed officers as well, acting like we're dangerous. A year ago, I'd be able to walk into this building and not be locked.
It's sad that we have Maxine Waters, who's in her mid-80s, out there, trying to fight for something. And you got the Republicans, MIA. But I'm sorry, you go ahead and finish it, because I want to see that guy. They're going to talk to him.
Okay. Here we go.
Now, this is what they're doing. Elon is allowed in, but not you, not your elected representatives, not parents, not students. Elon can go in, his goons can go in, but not the representatives of the people.
Now, you see that dude, Rom. I mean, he got away with like what, like $110 soaking wet with rocks in his pockets.
Oh, the guy in front of the door.
Like the guy in front of the door, right? The guy in front, not a security guard, not Secret Service, not an FBI. The guy in front of the door with the fluorescent Band-Aid on the back of his neck. That guy is in front of the door. Now, Maxwell Frost did clear that up. That people were, they were giving him backlash, and the folks like, why didn't you guys push him out the way? Why didn't you guys, why don't you guys get arrested? You guys look weak, blah, blah, blah. And Maxwell Frost was like, well, hold on. The thing is, all the doors were locked. Right. Elon locked the doors. He locked himself on the inside. That guy came out, and then they locked the doors behind him, which is another problem, right? Like, why are the security guards listening to Elon Musk and his group of elongated muskrat, as I like to call him, and his group of horrendous hackers? But yeah, so we have now a budgeting neo-fascist state, right, where people are now becoming deputized to reject authority that has been duly granted by the people, right, by our elected officials, our representatives, who are trying to go into places that they should have access of. And the question becomes, I mean, I think you've been saying this for many episodes now. We're headed towards a constitutional crisis, and I believe the new press secretary Caroline Leavitt was like, "Oh, the left has this narrative out there that we're headed towards a constitutional crisis, and that's what's not happening." And I think about George Orwell, where he says, the most serious rule they give you is to not believe your lying eyes and your lying ears. That's the most serious rule for the people to adhere to. Yeah, and that's what they're saying.
I think the most frustrating part about the constitutional crisis is that, and when they say things like that, is that they think people don't know what constitutes a constitutional crisis. Like, they need,
because they don't know.
They need to let the media decide that. Unfortunately, there's people who let the media decide what's a constitutional crisis and what isn't. And there's mainstream media, whether it's Fox News and Newsmax. I mean, if you're watching Fox News and Newsmax,
right,
you probably don't even know half that's going on. And if you like, in terms of like breaking,
you still probably think
law,
they sent $50 million in condoms to Gaza.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got Elon saying, they asked him this week. They said, well, that you were wrong about that, and he says, well, no one's going to bat 1,000. I'm going to be wrong sometimes, and I should be corrected. Okay, one, you're on the largest social media platform, or one of the largest social media platforms,
right?
Your posts are amplified just because you are the owner. We know how you are doing the algorithm, so you put it out there. There is followers that believe that to be true. Once it's put out there, it's hard to, even if he did say I was wrong, he never said publicly. And then you got the guy who's been put in charge for unlawful. What he's doing is unlawful. There's no doubt about it. In terms of pulling back congressional spending and cutting off funding that's already been approved. Right. But he's unilaterally basically looking at it and saying that this is canceled, this is gone, just because he's decided that. And this is the same guy who just said he's wrong sometimes. no, if you're going to be doing this, you need to be right about everything. And then there was
100%.
another clip today where they were in a hearing, a Senate hearing, congressional hearing. I don't know which one it was exactly, but there were some protesters, and they were saying there was some U.S. aid funding for some organization, and they were saying this saves lives, and then they got aggressively pulled out, and then some Republican commented, well, they must be not be watching Fox News or the latest news to know that that funding was reinstated. It was reinstated because what? You made a mistake and you had to fix it. Oh, you realized that it was hurting people that maybe that shouldn't be hurt, that's vulnerable, or maybe hey, it was actually hurting people MAGA. So some of those things like there's no room for mistakes. You can't make a mistake. A mistake is going to cause another plane accident. A mistake is going to cause another
lives.
terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Another mistake is going to cost lives. And because they're over in overseas foreign aid, they deserve.
I mean,
to die,
dude, there's
on
literally, they said, trucks of food and
500
warehouses
million
of food wasting, right, rotting. So
$500 million.
how is that efficient? How is that? There's literally, I mean, their logic doesn't even make sense, right? Like, oh, we're gonna cut all this waste. That's waste. Like, instead of give the food to the people who are hungry and need it, you're just gonna let it waste. And you want to tell me that you're efficient? And also, to that same point, you're getting rid of all these people in all these positions across all these different agencies. How are you supposed to do your mass deportations? How is that supposed to work? Who's supposed to be doing this? Like a bunch of militiamen who get ran
that's
out?
who they want to deputize. They're speaking of deputizing. Those people are going to be deputized.
That dude outside of the Department of Education, like that
Yeah,
pencil neck dude, like look, look. The thing about white supremacy is, and folks who believe in racism, there are two things: they're stupid and they lack self-awareness. Like, y'all think y'all the only ones with guns, and y'all think y'all the only ones that could fight because you wrestle in the woods. Look, we'll whoop your motherfucking ass, okay? So you want to, and again, I'm glad Maxwell Frost cleared it up about that guy outside of the Department of Education that, like, we absolutely would have pushed past him if the doors were unlocked, because those doors, they swing both ways, I guess. But this guy who's this pencil neck, but we've seen these videos of these militiamen outside of and they're doing their march steps, they're all offbeat, and they're wearing the little sock masks, just like on Django, cut the damn eye holes, all that type of shit. But like, yeah, man.
I do wish that and it is unfortunate like that Democrats have to be on like the front line, but I do wish that some of these Democrats were in these buildings before and just camp out, like honestly, like occupy the space, because they're coming in there. We know, a Department of Education, we knew it's next, and they probably know that there's some other. Honestly, like that's where we're at. If you wanted to keep it non-violent, that's how you do it.
Occupy,
in my opinion. And they're focused on this pie of like, here's the government, imagine this square I'm in, right? And these programs are in are like this little small square. This is where they're targeting cutbacks, right? And so you could wipe away entire departments, all of them, and it wouldn't even be but 5% of the entire federal budget. Meanwhile, military spending, defense is like these huge chunks, and you cut.
It's a third of our budget. I mean, the number it's the second highest expenditure we have. Number one expenditure is our debt payments. Number two is the military.
Yeah,
it's the military, and of course Pete Hegseth, who's so busy trying to rename tongue-in-cheek racist bases back to their glory of the old stars and bars. He runs now the Pentagon, which has failed 7 of the last 8 audits.
Right.
Billions of dollars. Where is it?
And you can start there. If there was legitimately trying to reduce spending, you're going to
waste and fraud.
You're going to start in some of the biggest chunks, because that's where your quickest win is going to be. From a percentage standpoint, 5% of the defense budget, or even like one of those, whether it's the Army, Department of Defense, like whatever,
R&D,
versus 100% of these is not going to even blink an eye. I think they said it's like 1 week of savings in the United States.
Like USAID is 1% of the budget.
Yeah. So that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to tear apart these organizations. They're trying to. It's revengeful. It's
These
based.
grievances,
Yeah, it's racist. It's a lot of
racist.
things.
Yep. It's all the ists, ogenies, and phobias.
So farmers are affected. That 500 million, it's sitting, just sitting there. Farmers are getting worried. I do question if they're going to try to rescue their base, the farmers, the white farmers, or are they truly just trying to privatize that industry, buy them out, buy out their land? So that remains to be seen. What do you think of that?
Well, we've already seen some of that, though. We've already seen a little bit of that. Like when they were talking about cutting all these spending and budget, Elon Musk himself made sure there was a carve out for what? Military. Because we know that he gets a lot of his billions for being a part of the defense contract complex, right? The military industrial complex. But he's a defense contractor, just like Tony Stark. In his mind, he's the real life Tony Stark. Um, so yeah, and but also we've seen in Alabama. I don't know if you saw Katie Britt, the senator from Alabama, who did that really odd, like soft voice response to Joe Biden's State of the Union. Remember that last year when like Joe Biden did that? And she was like in her kitchen, and she was like, Joe Biden, stop this right now. Stop this with your policies. Stop it. Well, anyway, she, with the cutting of NIH, that sent the state of Alabama into a tizzy because the number one employer for Alabama is what? The University of Alabama. And that's in the NIH funding would have been 60% of the budget which that state receives from the federal government. So she was actually trying to call for Trump to do a cutout and carve out for Alabama, the red state, right? These red states ran by racists. They still have extremely high black populations and extremely high populations of poverty of black people because they keep them disenfranchised. But yeah, so again, these are folks that cannot stand on their own 2 feet. They want to destroy the federal government, but yet that's the hand that feeds them. So I do think we are going to start seeing that. I do pray for our brothers and sisters down there, though. I mean, if I was a religious man, but I worry about them because again, the most of us are still in the South. In fact, the vast majority of all black people are still in the South.
Yeah, at some point we should, and I don't we need to go into it today, but I am curious about the percentage of the black population that votes in southern states versus Midwest, northern, western states, because to your point, like that's what I believe to be
It's not a
true,
lot.
but it has to be substantially less, and I think it could be
Correct.
could be a force that could be tapped into. But
Well, folks like what's his name? He's a commentator, Charles forget his last name, but
Blow.
he was Charles Blow. Yes, he was calling for black folks to basically remigrate back to the South because I mean Gary Chambers, when he ran for the Senate, he was doing daily updates of how much the black turnout was, and at the end of the day, after all the voting was counted, we're down to like 17% down there. I mean the voter oppression and the voter suppression down there and repression is real. This is why Jeff Landry, the governor, like these guys, like there's like these big boss hog and John Kennedy and what's the other senator, Bill, I think his name is Bill Cassidy or John Cassidy or something like that. He's a doctor. These are people who are outright racist, boss hog, off the plantation folks who want to keep that black folks suppressed. And that's why they're also silent on all this stuff that's happening right now, because it's all a project. It's all a project that, yes, there's going to be some disgusting, terrible, embarrassing things, but we have to go along with it if we want the white man on top. This is why it's important for any political leader to not only deal with the policy, but to also deal with the cultural problems. And I think Democrats have really shit the bed on that, and hopefully they'll change on that. But anyway, the last thing I'll say on the lawlessness stuff, to be honest, like law has taken a back seat. International law has taken a back seat, but it has honestly for 18 months.
Yeah, since
because like,
I know you're gonna say Netanyahu.
I mean, because like, what's the Leahy law? Right, that's a law. right? The Leahy law is that it's illegal for the United States of America to sell arms to anybody committing human rights abuses. And that was just flouted. You know, Democrats were like, that's okay. But now we're upset with international law. Now we're upset with the possibility of worse things happen. You know, it's just like, it's just, to me, it's the hypocrisy. And I think that's the problem right now, that the Democratic Party doesn't have a leg to stand on a moral stance. Now we have some fighters out there, you know, the Jasmine Crockett's out there, but you know, she sent money to Israel too. So there's a level of like, I talk about this all the time about the imperial boomerang. The shit you do over there, if you don't reject it when it's going on over there, it's going to come back here, and then you're not going to have a leg to stand on. And then the right, who wants it all to happen, they're going to be like, well, see,
Yeah.
like, what are you going to say?
Yeah, one thing we'll just touch on is like the left and Democrats. They never really fall completely in line. So there's always going to be dissent. There's always going to be people who disagree with. Whereas the right, if leader says that's what it is, then that's what it is. They all fall in line. We've seen that with all the confirmations. We see that with all the unqualified people. And the hypocrisy is what gets me the most. So I hate hypocrisy. That's why I can't stand Republicans, because you have all these people on record, RFK Jr., Marco Rubio, Vance, all these people have spoken out, called him Hitler, called him
crazy.
Lindsey Graham, saying the worst things about him, and then all of a sudden
he's a religious bigot.
And I saw a clip of RFK Jr. from 20-something years ago, and it was like, man, this dude's spitting facts. He's talking.
Oh yeah. I saw that.
I'm like, but even a year ago. So these, you know, that's the thing, and I don't, you know, they fall in line, and you know, when people in Democrats, when they step out of line, they're pretty much like, look, you got to be held accountable. You got to go. There's not a lot of forgiveness within the, and that's how honestly, that's how it should be, right? There should be an appropriate level of accountability, and whatever that may be. You know, you get canceled, whatever you want. If you deserve it, you're gonna get canceled. You're gonna get canceled for 2 years.
It's not really canceled. I don't think is the word used before that. It's accountability, man.
It's accountability, and I know they like to call it a cancel, but I don't. You know, whatever. Okay, you call it cancel. But it's called accountability is what it really is.
Right.
And everybody needs to be held accountable. But if your own, you know, your party, just because they have an R next to their name and there's
power. You have power.
I mean, Matt Gaetz. If he was, I don't think he needed to drop out. I don't even think he needed to drop. They would have ignored everything. They would have said, "Oh,
at this point,
16-year-old. Oh, okay, cool. He's okay. Don't
10-year-old, whatever."
Yeah, honestly, they would have. Oh, it's a lie. It was a lie. He dropped out prematurely. But anyways, Trump probably thought he was weak, so you know, because of
right. How dare you? Because that's what Trump believes in, is never apologize, never back down. So, always attack. He learned from Roy Cohn.
You think we got a clip of Elon Musk
of the most alpha bro, Donald Trump alpha. Don't ever say the word cuck to us. We're the right, and Ron's about to play this clip, but I don't ever want to hear them say, "Oh, you libs are cucks, you're weak because you like gay people." It's like, dude, your God King was this.
And the person who is helping stood over Donald Trump in the White House today, thereby delivering a picture of presidential subservience, the likes of which we have never seen. The most powerless image of a president of the United States ever created by a camera. There it is. In that shot, Elon Musk is doing everything he possibly can to tell the world, without saying a word, that Donald Trump is not the boss of me. Donald Trump is the boss of the other adults in that shot, Stephen Miller and Will Scharf, and that's why they are following Donald Trump's lead on the dress code for the Oval Office, which is the same dress code that has existed for every previous president. The child was there as a power play by Elon Musk, demonstrating he can do whatever he wants in that room. When Donald Trump is your boss, you don't bring your kid into a business meeting with Donald Trump. And when Donald Trump is your boss, you don't talk more than Donald Trump in a business meeting with Donald Trump. Elon Musk spoke 3,666 words. Donald Trump spoke 2,487 words. Mike Pence never had a day like that in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. J.D. Vance will never have a day like that in the Oval Office with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is the boss of J.D. Vance. When the president speaks in the Oval Office, no one else does, except today. Elon Musk interrupted Donald Trump when Donald Trump was speaking, and Elon Musk's 4-year-old child spoke while Donald Trump was speaking. And nothing could demonstrate the power of Elon Musk more than his child speaking while Donald Trump was speaking.
So
Lawrence
and
killed that.
what he didn't talk about was I don't know if you've seen this with a kid.
Oh yeah,
They had him saying basically like
shut the fuck
I
up.
want you to
Like,
shut up. You're not
yeah.
the president. Like I don't. And then there was something else he's.
I think also I heard that his son also said, "My dad changed the votes too." Like I think there's a clip of that going around too. I don't know if that's the same. I haven't seen it either. I heard they were talking from some trusted sources earlier today. One of the guys was a lawyer about like what are we doing about this? But either
he
way,
said in the past, whatever we want to do, he's like, we do whatever we want. And you know, kids are a sponge. Kids will repeat things you say. So
yeah,
sure
that wasn't like naturally out of the kid's head. Like he's been around his dad saying this to other people, and clearly he's like a privileged little shit. I'm not knocking the kid because he's a kid, but he's clearly a privileged little. I mean, a little platinum spoon kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his dad is the richest person on the planet. Come on, he's gonna be an asshole. Like he's not gonna be a nice kid.
I think this kid's got brains. Like he's well aware of what he's doing. Like and what he's saying to the president. You see Trump is just sitting there kind of like
taking
it. I don't even think he heard the kid. One, two, but yeah, he's just sitting
I
there.
think he did, but he's a
stewing.
bitch.
I don't think he's listening. I think as Elon's talking, I think Trump is literally just in la la land because he's embarrassed and so.
I don't know because he was responding. He was responding to some things that Elon was saying, and when X, little X, I think they call him, little Nas X, when he told him like shut your mouth and you don't talk to me. Trump like tried to like shush him with his hand. I mean, look, I am not making excuses for Trump. Whatever the worst scenario is, let's believe that because he's gonna lie on people all day and twice on Sunday. So I definitely believe that he heard that shit, but he's just a bitch. So he's not gonna fight back or do anything because he knows who owns him. And also we cannot forget Donald Trump did not want to be president. He doesn't want to be president now. He just didn't want to go to jail.
He doesn't want to do it. I mean, it's all executive. That's why everything's executive order. He didn't want to go to jail exactly, and I think he thinks he'll never go to jail. That's why they're brazen. They're brazen about it, and he's probably right. But I talked about this the day after the election, and I said the first thing I said was Elon bought America
on the cheap.
And I didn't know who was in whose pocket, but it makes sense that the 300-something billionaire has the president in his pocket. The $1 billion supposedly. And well, now he's worth more because he's scammed he's con artist everyone. But
I think we'll never know. I think we'll never know. But yeah,
he literally has bought America, and I don't know what what he did to get it. It does make me suspicious of the election. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the more they talk, the more that we see how much Elon has been just allowed access. It wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of social engineering. It doesn't mean that somebody was in, doing something the day of the vote, but it could be things like pre-engineering before these things go out a year ago. There's so many different scenarios in the the sole supply chain of how the vote gets to. So, but I don't have the power.
But this is why we need. To your point earlier, this is why we need Democrats to have a fucking backbone. Mm-hmm. Let's play this next clip of Hakeem Jeffries. What he said a month ago, where he had more of a strong stance, and then he had a meeting with a bunch of crypto bros. And then he had a different tone. Let's listen to this, and let's see if the Democrats, the Democratic leader of the Congress, if he's ready to do this.
In the courts.
Sorry,
run back. Fight it in the streets.
But I'm trying to figure out.
We are going to fight it legislatively. We are going to fight it in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
But I'm trying to figure out what leverage we actually have. What leverage do we have? Republicans have repeatedly lectured America. They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government.
Oh my God.
What leverage do we have?
That makes me sick to my stomach because, the last thing he said, the key was fighting in the streets.
Right.
And there's the power of the people, and he's not leveraged. He has not leveraged that at all. I'm not saying that he needs a call for people to go fight in the streets violently. But people do need to, like I've been saying, take it to the streets, protest, get in the streets. But also, like, you see AOC hop on an Instagram Live and she's, here's what you can do, indivisible. Here's what you can do. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do. Yeah,
But
I
the,
heard.
but the problem with this is like him as the leader of the Congress saying, "What leverage do we have? Well, I mean, we're just Democrats and we show up and it's like, well, I guess I gotta go home and I'm gonna complain because look, there was one stupid motherfucker named Tommy Tuberville last Congress. Remember him?
Yeah, I do.
Tommy Tuberville withheld and stopped all the military nominations. Do you remember that? A one-man wrecking crew. So the idea of this, like, what are we gonna do? We're just a Democratic Party. We're just a party of everybody else that's not straight, white, and male. We don't. So it's like this is bull. And Dems want to know why people stayed home. 90 million people stayed home. People stayed home because y'all don't stand for shit.
As I've seen this and seen things like this, it makes me go back and think to one of our earlier episodes, which is also like one of the earlier times that you and I have even had conversations. But it's like it makes me think. Well, let's trace the money. Who's funding this guy? Because he seems to want to be keeping order. And honestly,
but what order, right? Like order of who's on top? What's the order, right?
Exactly. Like he wants to let. I mean, right now it's a constitutional crisis. It's a coup.
Right.
I don't know why anybody would think otherwise when you have a billionaire, an unelected billionaire, doing what he wants, whatever systems he wants.
As he complains that there's unelected
he just doesn't want to
bureaucrats.
cause a stir, or he doesn't want people's phones to get ring.
Fuck all that.
No, let's pull out all the stops. I mean, we really should be. Everyone should be on the street. Occupy DC.
And it's irritating to your point of like, you want to tell me for the past 18 months, 2 years, during this election season, that this man was Satan, or to some he was the second coming, and he knows how to dismantle the government.
Fight it.
Oops, sorry.
You're fine. One party knows how to dismantle the government, and the other doesn't know what to do. Right, like it's time to get these people. Like they have to give up the microphone. Right, like either quit or give the microphone to the AOCs, to the Jasmine Crockett's, to the Garcias. Like this
and they're
is
giving actionable things that the people can do. And he is sitting there behind a podium in his suit, doing to me nothing.
What are we gonna do?
And putting out soft tweets on X and like
God's got it.
No, put on your clothes, get out to the streets.
No,
like, why wasn't he in front of the door? You know what I'm saying?
No, we're just
the
Democrats,
Senate minority
man.
leader in front of the door of these places. So I'm done with him.
Yeah, man. You're right. It's disgusting.
And as far as like, and then you talking about donate, I got a message from him asking for donations. I'm like, are you serious? No, I'm giving my money to AOC. I'm giving my money to Jasmine Crockett. I'm giving my money to people who are actually like trying to do something. No way I'm giving my money to the DNC right now. No way I'm giving my money to Hakeem Jeffries or Schumer better not. I never better see Schumer.
We're gonna win. That's what Schumer says. Schumer said for
every
Jamal.
Instagram live right now. We're on YouTube. Instagram live caps us at an hour still. I don't know how to get around that yet, but hop over to YouTube. We got about 10 or 15 more minutes. A couple more topics we're going to touch on, but appreciate it if you're here. Like, share, follow. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the like button, and we appreciate it. So we're gonna go ahead
on Sunday we have Dr. Hardy.
Yes, Sunday, Dr. Kimberly Hardy. She is the second vice chair in North Carolina. Excited to have her on. She will be our third guest, and we
Have a
didn't
good
have to
conversation.
make any effort to have a diverse guest. Like it was just happened, and I love that
That's
about
true. Good
this.
point. Good point.
Like we hadn't talked about. We need to have women.
That's a good
We need
point.
to have white women. We need to
DEI.
have Latina women. We need to have black women. And I was thinking about this. I'm like, it just happened, and that's the thing about
That's a good
diversity.
point.
It's
Hey, we're
like
just
it's organic. Somebody online said, make sure you have women voices when we were early, caught viral, and I was like, yeah, of course. Like I didn't really think
no
much
question.
about it. And it's happened, right? And I hope to have a lot more diverse guests. But it's keep having diverse guests. So, but yeah, let's move on. I know Instagram's going to cut us off, but what do we got next?
But and my last piece there is that we're doing politics here, right? We're talking politics here. People don't expect us to win all the time, but I do expect us to go down swinging. Like if you don't know what to do, then go home then. Like it's the lackluster BS that people are really sick of, in my personal opinion. And I think that we didn't lose because of identity politics. It's because we didn't lean into our identity politics, and it's to appeal to this imaginary middle, this imaginary group of people. And Dems are under some delusion that the institutions are going to hold, and we're going to be able to move forward in 2026 and 2028. Like, dude, I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. I don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks. Now with Elon Musk grabbing little hands all over our data and information, we've had 3 weeks of this motherfucker, to ransack every single agency and to upend our constitutional norms and to put us in a constitutional crisis. And guess what? It's barely getting covered by the media. So I'm glad we are, because this is ridiculous. This is crazy, man. So next topic here. Yes. So then the comms director of the Working Families Party, she has some tips for the Democratic Party of how they could maybe punch back in this era. So let's pull that up. You can zoom in on that, because your boys' eyeballs.
There we go.
Your boys' eyeballs aren't that great no more. Let's see here. And then I got.
Can you see? So we got one, stories are how we make sense of the world, and all stories have heroes and villains. Showing off your superior intellect or virtue may feed your ego, but won't change hearts or minds. 3, we're in an attention economy.
Let's go through them here and show them how the right uses them. So stories are how we make sense of the world, and all stories have heroes and villains. The right absolutely says, oh, it's that black person, it's the immigrant, right? The hero is big, strong Donald Trump and his, in his fight photo. He's the hero. That's why he's Rambo on top of an American flag, right? The villains are the DEIs, the wokers, the CRTers, right? Those are the people, and they tell that on repeat to their base, right? So I want to just kind of walk through how they use it, right? 2, showing off your superior intellect or virtue may feed your ego, but it won't change hearts and minds. Hakeem Jeffries putting out a freaking 9-point plan of how we're going to fight this constitutional crisis with some Dude, get in I'm not saying physically hurt people, but like start calling these motherfuckers crazy. Like these people are some racist, bigots. These people, get in the mud, call them out, right? Like stop this whole, like all the cute rhyming and shit. Nobody cares about that shit, Hakeem Jeffries. Number 3, I love this one. We're in an attention economy. Before you can sell your ideas, you have to get their attention. And was it Robert Garcia did that? Was it yesterday or the day before? In Congress, where he said Marjorie Taylor Greene had a dick pic last Congress. So I'm gonna show a dick pic, and there's a picture of Elon Musk. And then he was asked about that on CNN, like, do you think that it's actually effective to call Elon Musk a dick? I'm like, Breonna Keeler, I'm so sick of this whole faux clutching of the pearls.
You wouldn't have me on the show, would you, if I didn't say that?
Right,
shit, right?
Exactly. Got their attention. And then what did he do? He immediately went into the actual policy things they're doing. So he got their attention by saying Elon Musk is a dick. And now everybody's gonna remember that moment. And that's the energy that we need. 4, there are no mods or not mods or referees to save us. Appealing to norms and precedents is tantamount to shouting to avoid. This is also very important. Folks, they're trying to hyper normalize situation. We're the Democrats, they're the Republicans. No, this is at this point, it's no longer left and right. This is the 1% and all its folks who have fealty with it. They need to be saying that loud and clear. Like, I mean, we're kind of saying the oligarchs a lot now, but that's kind of almost getting becoming, mundane, and folks are able to like kind of forget about that stuff. But letting folks know, setting the terms, letting them know it's rigged, who's rigging the rules, and what you're trying to do about it, right? Because no one's coming to save us, and we need folks like the Jasmine Crockett. We keep saying to these people, but like it's sad we get the same handful of people, but we need folks in the streets as well. Stop looking for the warrior. You are the warrior. 5, humor isn't something to be afraid of. In fact, humor can be a powerful weapon. Going back to, Jasmine Crockett calling her a bleached blonde, bad built butch body.
Ooh,
The 6 Bs, right? Like we all remember that, right? Like it was fire, right? And I mean, even to a degree, Joe Biden had some funny memes when he had the dark brand before the genocide started. People kind of like that stuff when he kind of got punchy and stuff like that. And you have to use comedy because it is a medium of how people understand the world. 6, the only way a message or idea gains currency is through repetition. And 7, the only way a message or idea gains currency is through repetition. And I think that's another problem with Democrats is, they do one thing good and they say it one time, and then they go back to their 9-point bullet plans and say, why does nobody know about it? And the right, what do they say? The election was stolen. 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 And then after a while, people start to believe, well, no one else is saying the opposite in my circle, so I guess the election was stolen. There's $50 million worth of condoms to Gaza. Like all this, as long as it gets repeated, they believe it. Now, the problem with the left is we have more critical thinking. So we're going to ask more questions. The right almost has this fealty to the cause because of more. You brought it up earlier about like how Republicans fall in line and Democrats have more infighting. The reason why is because the Republican Party is an identity, right? It's 87% white. If you start to mix in white passing Latinos, you're like in the mid 90s of an all white party. It's 70% male, so it's a predominantly all white male party. Everybody else is either independent or in the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party, I've realized as a chair and as I'm moving on to from my term, the Democratic Party is not a community. And this is why I think we've been failing, even here locally in county, is that the idea that we're trying to offer ourselves as a community. And that's not a community. Like we're a political party that has ideas and policies that we want to get done, but we have to prioritize those policies. But if we're not talking about that, we just want to come together as some kumbaya, we're just a community, that's going to fail because when we walk out of those rooms, we're a part of the Black community, Latino community, women community, Asian community, Black woman community. And the way these institutions and standards and policies affect us are all different. Now, to white men, if they're all white men in the Republican Party, you only got kind of one idea, whatever the idea of white male is, right? So I think that's just, we have to like reshuffle and reframe what is the party, because it's just a political party. It is not a community.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I say we got to build a coalition, right? So we
Correct.
go and do our thing. And I think you were the chair for the Democratic Party in a mostly white, I don't know the exact percentage, county, which is fine, but in terms of the priorities for you as a Black man.
Was wildly different.
And my Union County is actually pretty diverse in terms of reflective of the population.
You go more east, yeah.
And so, there's a lot of opportunity, in my opinion, within the Black community, within the Latino community, to build out there. Because in my opinion, like and this is when I was knocking and canvassing, I'm like, I think I'd rather, like, if you could put me in like a Black area, a Latino area, like I can't speak Spanish, but I feel like I could get through to that and relate more than like knocking on a rich white person's door in the middle of a red county.
Right.
But they never connect. It was like hard. It was hard. And because I'm not gonna do like they don't relate. Like I can first off, I know that there's things that I can relate to people with, but when people see me, they don't necessarily
think
that.
Right. Same here.
And it's a little bit, especially when you're knocking on the door. It's harder to crack an egg. They're not like, oh yeah, hey, how you doing? Like,
because people don't want to answer the door.
Politics. No, like so.
Especially now with the advent of the Ring camera.
Yeah, and we're not going to agree on everything. Democrats in the room, like go to Indivisible or go to a Democratic Party meeting. But you know what? we do need to come together and figure out what we have in common. Like you said, what does the Democrats stand for, and we need to have a coalition to know like that's what you're doing, this is what you're doing, and we're gonna come together. We're gonna figure it out. And like I said, come 2026, if there's a D next to your name, there's not a lot of I'm going to criticize, even if it's there'd be a. Let me say, I have a tolerance for a lot when in 2026, but what I want is for us to figure it out, fight whatever, fight.
But like the thing is, the party has to have that conversation. The thing is, you're not a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. The thing is, we support the Democratic Party with our votes, with our time, with our energy, with our money, with our voices. Like we are not, because the reason I say that, because the Democratic Party does not put out things that represent us, any legislation that represents the things we want to see get done. And it's very important that we understand that.
Yeah, but but I do hope the Democratic Party is, I know they're no.
But hope is not a strategy, my friend.
But you had, but we had a conversation with Anderson a week ago. She's at the state level. I think that if you really wanted to, you could do something at the state level. I do think that there's opportunities, and the people that look like you and me, Democrats need to embrace that more for sure. But
what you're talking about is power structures, and I think about power structure is they do not yield without demand, right? And right now, the Democratic Party does not have an identity, right? Because the Democratic Party, again, going back to what it is, it's a political party. It is not a community of people. It's a coalition of people. The thing is, in this state, where it's 46% Black and 60% people of color in total. So that means the majority of people look like me and you that vote for the Democratic Party, but yet leadership continues to be and still led and still divined by people that do not look like us, that are still the minority of us that vote. They're still unable to be in their own community. But then they want to say when we're in a room together, that's community. And that's not community just because we're in a room together. Because again, you don't care when Black women are dying at 3 to 4 times rates due to maternal mortality. All of a sudden, that's the Black community. When Black kids are on the school to prison pipeline, that's the Black community. But when we vote, oh, we're the Democratic community. This is the delusion we have to wake up from. I think that is why it's important for us to push back on this and to say, you guys have to change. And I just don't want it to be a captured vote. Because even you, and I get what you're saying. You're like, I want to get to 2026 and I'll vote for you. They know that. That's why they won't change. They know you will vote for them. And it's like, what I'm saying is, even as a chair of the Democratic Party, what I'm saying is like, we have to have demands of the party that it be better. Because if not, we're going to keep getting the same, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Right. And like, and to your point of like the Democratic Party had this conversation, put up the Axios post about what the Democrats have said on this past Monday.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to come back to, I want to come back to that because there's one thing I want to touch on.
Okay.
But here we go. This one right here.
Yes. So Dems are pissed at liberal groups. Move on and these are Democratic groups that have helped them, canvas for people, get the message out, help them spread the word, knock doors. It was specifically Richie Torres out of New York. He said he resents that voters are calling in saying that the Democrats aren't doing enough to push back on Republicans. I'm sorry. Did you call them and apologize, Ron? Did you apologize for blowing up their phones, or are folks calling in apologizing for getting on their nerves because they want to go have tea with the Republicans? They want to go be with their listen. We didn't put ourselves in a constitutional crisis. We elected you guys to fight back on this, but they're so concerned. They're so concerned. He resents it, man.
I thought this. I posted on our the Radical Roots Stories account about that when I read it. I was like, look, because Indivisible, Move On, they held the protest last week,
right? Rightfully,
that was like people took to the streets. Like people been there's that anxiety, that energy that needs to be out there because people that they know that's just where they understand, like the people Move On, Indivisible, they understand what's happening more than the average citizen. the members of those groups are the ones that are the most anxious because they're the ones that are paying attention and understanding. These are the people you should be like, oh man, invisible, move on, give them a task. Like, give them what you want them to do. Point them in the right direction.
I hear you earlier when you were like, oh, the Democrats, I mean, this, that, and 23rd and for the 26th election, dude, this is what the top is saying. They're mad at us for expecting more out of them. That, like, we got to be real about this. Like, we're in a moment where the heroes we're looking for are right here in the mirror because our elected officials are bought and paid for. And I have no qualms in saying that, because if you're going to get mad at the people who don't have anything and no power beyond our collective solidarity, you're going to get mad at us for calling you to hold you to account to say you need to go do something. And you resent us. Brother, we got to wake up. We got to wake up. Because there's only so much folks can take.
Exactly. There's only so much folks can take, and you know, and the Target boycott. I mean, that's something that if a Democrat signed on with that and amplified it,
right? Simple things
continue to take off. So there's a lot of things that can happen, and so
as George
kind of like follow that money. That follow the money is
yes,
what I keep thinking about at this point, because
George Orwell once said, the folks who are unable to criticize capitalism will absolutely always be quiet about fascism. And that's real from top to bottom. Think about it though. Like, I think about it when I heard that quote. I heard that quote recently, so that's why I'm not like some sort of like quote genius. I heard it like 5 days ago, but it's true, because if I think about it locally, like the white people that I organized with, they're not really trying to fight capitalism, right? It's always easy to say, well, it's the right wing, but like, well, what does the right wing represent? And because they're well off, or they're comfortable, right? So what is racism? Racism is nothing but fascism. So we start bringing up things like fascism. They don't want to talk about that because they were unwilling to deal with the material conditions that brought us to that point. So at a systemic level, it works all the way down to the roots, at the ground level too. You know, I'm like, that's what it kills me, that folks that are unwilling to say, hey, you know what, this is late stage capitalism. It always goes to fascism. Maybe when we start dealing with like capitalism, imperialism, and white supremacy and patriarchy, it all needs to fall. And once you pull one thread, it all starts to collapse in on itself.
Yeah, and I think I understand what the angle was going into the 2024 election of like, oh, we're trying to get in the middle. I think that's what Kamala did. I think that's what Democrats were doing. We're trying to pull it in the middle. At this point, especially like at this point, it can't be any more obvious that like that was the wrong move. Like, look, you got the oligarchy, you got you got billionaires.
We have our own billionaire.
White supremacy, you got all of that, and it's like now it's glaring. And even for me, I'm like, because I was on board with that strategy too. I thought Republicans were gonna like
yes. And there's a comedian. I'm gonna send you the video later, just for me personally. But he was talking about that because he's a Jewish guy, and he's for a free Palestine, and he was on his podcast, and folks were like, his two guests were like joking with him, like, you did this. He's like, you know what, you're right. I did do this. I was the one that said, I'm going to be with Joe Biden's. I'm going to mirror all of his policies, all of the policies. I was the one that said we're going to ignore young people and people of color in our Arab votes and try to go after Republicans. And I was the one that said, you know what, go get that Liz Cheney endorsement. Like, so there's a level that, like, if we're not having this mea culpa in conversation as the Democratic Party, which we are not, including the new DNC chair, who said all billionaires aren't bad, brother. You are not. They're not ready for this moment. They're like, he's already out the gates fucking up. Like, what are you talking about? All billionaires aren't bad. We're seeing mass income inequality. We're seeing it's the second Gilded Age, where the industrialists are taking over, the retrenchment and falling back of civil rights and human rights, the exploitation of labor. All of these things are happening all over again. And if you know what happened after the Gilded Age, folks went to the streets and folks were smashing in the heads of folks who were CEOs at the time. They were, factory workers or factory owners. This the Luddite movement in England all the way to now. So this is why we have national labor boards, because they're like, okay, we got to figure out how to get these folks. Because CEOs or owners of businesses were getting killed every single week back in in the Gilded Age. So that's a history that if you don't know history, I mean, look what Luigi Mangione did. I mean, he didn't work for the corporation, but someone stabbed their CEO shortly after Luigi Mangione did that, right? So what I'm saying is, if you don't know history, that shit can stab you in the face if you're not paying attention. And yeah, man. But on a lighter note, let's move on to our culture. Unless you got something else to add. Sorry.
One quick thing. I want
Yes.
to go back to
Yes.
this real quick because,
Yep.
like, do Democrats have like psychologists like in the on the
What you
bench or
mean?
something? Like, there's some psychology that can be tapped into because, Garcia, for example. Hey, I got a dick pic. Like, you knew that this is going to capture the attention. There's things that you can do and say to get under Elon's skin, to get under Trump's skin, and I
Yeah.
don't understand why they don't leverage those things. And going to the part
Lobbyists.
about
Lobbyists.
repetition.
Lobbyists.
When the Republicans have a message, like, it spreads like wildfire. Like, everyone
Right.
is on the same page or
Yes.
some similar message. Democrats, you got, Jeffrey saying one thing, you got Crockett saying one thing. It's like,
We're gonna win.
There's no coherent, there's no like message that just is spread through where and there's got to be some psychology. You can, like, for instance, Elon's little kid X, he's saying all this stuff, like they could have been blasting that. But I feel like there's some reverse psychology that the Democrats could be doing better.
I always say,
thin-skinned little guys, men, boys, or whatever you want to call them.
Oh, definitely little boys. I always say, man, my time as chair, and it's proven true every single day, man. For 2 years, going on 2 years now. You can give people all the information. You can give people all the psychology. You can give people all the bullet points. You can give people all the diagrams. But the one thing, Rom, that you cannot create is will. You have to be willing to do that. Robert Garcia was willing to put up a picture of Elon Musk and call him a dick. It's the will, man. It's the will. And sometimes if you're paid to not have any will, on top of you kind of already a squishy person anyway, it's a win-win, or really a lose-lose for us. But that's why.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we were in Congress, I mean, I would be straight up like, yo, this is some wild, this is some wild white supremacy shit. I'd be calling this shit out every day. Okay, Mr. Baxter, please, please. But
you'd be making headlines and people would be paying attention.
But that's what the Democrats need to do. Not this whole, like, we're gonna work with, Ro Khanna, who's on the if you go to the Doge appreciation page, he's on there. Right, Ro Khanna, a Democrat.
I don't know what the Doge appreciate. I know that when Doge was first announced, he's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." Let's
there's a page.
Government.
There's a page, man. Yeah, and he's on there. It's like there's like Mark Andreessen's on there and other billionaires. But like the Doge, it's not called the Doge appreciation page, but it's like Doge like support, it's something like that, some bullshit. But a Democrat's on there. And I think I said this a few episodes ago. It's kind of hard to rail against the 1% when the 1% is lining your pockets. And we've always said we've needed dark money and money to be out of politics, but its tentacles have twisted up inside the nerve endings and spine and sinew of this government that, like, to rip it out is like ripping out your own brainstem.
Yeah.
And go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry. But we keep to go back to Citizens United. Like, that was such a critical moment in history that, like,
Yes.
it's literally. I was listening to Adam Kissinger today, and he was talking about, there were people talking about some billionaires should buy Twitter from Elon and and he's like, but then no, like, it's just our billionaires buy your billionaires, and then another billionaire buys out their billionaires, and it's just
a monopoly
oligarchy that's happening in Russia. It's like, it's not.
Yes,
I mean,
correct.
It's hard to see. It is very hard to see a way out of that, and dig the way out of that. So. There's one more clip. I don't know I have no idea what this clip is. Do you want to show that, or
let's see it.
This is like a Nike commercial or something. What is
oh yeah, so this is a more uplifting thing. So this was, I don't watch Super Bowl, I don't watch football, but I want to end on, as we're gonna end on some Kendrick stuff too. But this was a positive commercial, and I want to kind of talk about it on the back end of kind of what we need to do as Democrats or folks who vote Democrat in this moment. So if you want to play that real quick, so it should be about a minute long.
You can't be demanding. You can't be relentless. You can't put yourself first. So, put yourself first. You can't be confident, so be confident. You can't challenge, so challenge. You can't dominate, so dominate. You can't flex, so flex. You can't fill a stadium, so fill that stadium. You can't be emotional, so be emotional. You can't take credit. You can't speak up. You can't be so ambitious. You can't break records. You can't have any fun. You can't make demands. You can't keep score. You can't stand out. Whatever you do, you can't win. So win.
I love that. I love that because man, like nothing gets me going more than being told I can't do something. Like because we need rage, but we need directed rage. Like we need to understand that we are fighting against. We know who we're fighting against. We need to know what hurts them, so we can know how to actively attack it. You know what I mean? Because we're at war with these folks, and honestly we've been at a war with them. But it's time to stop looking around for a savior and realize that you are the savior. You're the warriors that we need. All the folks listening to this, Rom, you, me, Payron, we're the warriors that we need. From the grassroots to the grass tops. And let me tell you something: nothing in this country has ever gotten done without a small group of people who have had creativity, imagination, and the innovation to get it done. The audacity to dream about something that is bigger than and bolder than what they see. So don't tell me we can't find our way out, right? Our people found our way out through slavery. People found their way out through the Holocaust. People found their way out through apartheid, and they had the audacity to go get it. So don't tell me we can't find a way. And I'm like, we are the leaders that we need right now. Not folks saying, "What's my leverage? What's my I don't." I'm just the leader of the Democrats in Congress. What do you want me to do? So that commercial got me going. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So I agree, and I don't remember who said this, but maybe it was AOC. But the innovators, the creativity, like everyone has a lane. Every time they talk about, why were you recording and why didn't you jump in? Like first off, I'd probably be the person jumping in. Like if it was that's just how
yeah.
But there is a purpose for that camera person. That camera person has a role, and that is the role they are comfortable with. But that the accountability comes because of that camera person recorded it, right? So people have a role. If you're in marketing, then hey, you can create something like a marketing campaign. If I do AI, I'm getting ready to hopefully train different organizations on how we can leverage AI to organize and as a weapon. Everyone has a role, and I think people need to think about things in a little bit differently because everyone has talents, everyone has creativity, everyone is a lot of people are innovators. How can you use your skills to get through this? I was just talking to a friend of mine, and he's trying to understand how he doesn't fall victim to this. Like, where's the opportunity right now that I can take advantage of in this moment? And he's not a political guy, so he's just thinking, he's not like a super political guy, but he's thinking, he obviously sees the threat and what's happening, and he's like, I'm not gonna fall victim to this. So in my way, in my field or whatever, let me figure out how to get through this, right? And so that's what people need. But people are thinking about that, but I'm telling you that the Democrats, the leaders, or whoever, if they can get people to wake their consciousness to think about those things, then we can have a movement. Then we can make some change, and do more than just survive. Do more.
We can win. I'm saying, I was with you. I'm like, yeah, we can win. We just got to believe we can win, and then move in that direction. Like that's it. Like it's just very simple. Like all the I'm with you. Because even I'm gonna get into this in a second here with Kendrick, but when people are like, oh, he's not a revolutionary, and I'm like, first of all, it's crazy that he was the reason 2020 was all right while people were in the streets. They were like, well, what's the song? Is the anthem while people were in the streets, right? Yeah. But now all of a sudden he does this subversive Super Bowl appearance, and they're like, oh, he's not a revolutionary. But it's during the revolution, you can't yell at the baker because he's not in the streets. Because guess what? To your point earlier, you need some folks to be baking the food while we out in the streets. We need folks putting lunches together. We need folks watching the kids. Everybody can't be out there, right? But also don't shit on me for being out there. So
Yep.
we have to work together in the same direction. I think the Black Panthers were really good at that. That like, hey, they actually criticized each other a lot in public because they wanted to make sure, hey, are you living up to our standards or our goals? But at the end of the day, they knew they were on the same side. I think the Democratic Party, again, the big umbrella, is all about having the presence of toxic peace. All about just everybody be happy, and that's just not going to get it done when folks are closer to the fire than other folks are who are telling you to be calm.
Well, so I'm gonna swing it to Kendrick since we're
Yeah,
closing it out.
baby.
We brought it up. And Kendrick's role, like, so I know I was talking about Tupac a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And somebody said he's not political. I was like, yo, he's very political. Like the things he's talking about on almost every song.
Tupac Amari?
But Kendrick, we know he's political, and I knew like this is a Super Bowl show. We talked about it last week. This is one I'm not gonna miss. We're not having a show. I don't watch the NFL anymore. But
yeah, me neither.
I did watch the first half. I watched the Super Bowl, the halftime show with my daughter, my wife, and I was ready. Right, it was a concert in my house. Like we had a party.
No question. No question.
So Uncle Sam, like my wife.
Dude,
like,
when I saw that part at the beginning, it just set the tone. It set the tone. It's your. Can we pull it up on YouTube? Like just the beginning part. It's your. I mean, I just want to hear people.
She's like, I get it, Ron. I caught that one. I was like,
so good, so good. And if y'all know anything about Samuel Jackson has been steeped in history and in the rights of all of us, especially Black people. He held Martin Luther King's father hostage at Morehouse. A lot of folks don't know that. And he was one of the pallbearers at Martin Luther King's Jr.'s funeral. So this is
I didn't
someone
know that. I actually didn't know that part until 4 days ago.
Yeah, I mean he has lived, breathed, and died. I mean not died, but he has lived and breathed what it means for Black liberation. And in fact, the reason he was against and held Martin Luther King's father hostage was because he felt like Morehouse was creating docile Negroes. His words specifically, where he felt like these institutions were almost de-radicalizing Black people from wanting our liberation to try to move into the middle class, which is honestly, ironically, has happened. Where it's taken it, and now we're trying to relearn it, all of us, especially as middle class Black people, trying to get to realize who we are, and not that we're just these roles and positions and jobs.
Yep. All right, so
here we go.
Let me roll.
Yeah.
Salutations! It's your uncle, Sam. And this is Recruitment AGAIN.
All right. So like, I mean, just we got to set the context, right? I mean, again, I don't watch football in years. It's not like you haven't watched football in years. But the backdrop, right? The Kansas City Chiefs were one. It is a team that still has an extremely racist name, right? Like it's one step below the Washington Commanders used to be a slur name. But and that had Patrick Mahomes and his wife, who she's a big MAGA person. You got Harrison Butker, who's their kicker, who had that terrible speech at Liberty University about women and gender roles and how they need to be. And of course, Trump himself, the orange Mussolini, was there, the mango Mussolini himself, who wanted the Kansas City Chiefs to win because that was the more racist. And I was telling my son, because the day after on Monday, I said, since I've been a kid, because my family, we're from Pittsburgh, so big Steelers fans, my whole family. Every Super Bowl, and Ron, you can tell me if I'm lying about this, what I told my son. I said, every Super Bowl, there's always like a Black team that kind of Black folks are going for. Then there's like the other team. I was like, it doesn't matter if there's two Black quarterbacks. There's just one team that you'll see predominantly more Black people, even if that's not their home team or what. They'll just be like, oh, I'm with that because, the linebacker, I saw him like, he was at a protest or something. So like all Black folks are like, they're kind of down with that team. This election, it was damn like an election. This game was like, you had the damn near white supremacist team. And then you had this Black quarterback, Jalen Hurts, and he's always bigging up Black women. He has an all-female management team. You had the first Black female coach win a Super Bowl. And again, I don't care about football. I think it's a terrible sport. I think it ruins your brain. We shouldn't put our young boys into it. But if we're gonna look at it for its spectacle of what it was, and then to have Kendrick and have Samuel Jackson say, basically, it wasn't about football, but the way we exist in this society is the American game. And then if you could skip to the one part where it's like, Kendrick, what do you say? You're too loud. It's too angry or something like that. It's too ghetto. I mean, because that's what Uncle Sam, that's what America's always told us, is that you can't, basically, you can't be here, right? So I thought that was also genius too.
Let's see if this is the right way.
No. Too reckless, too ghetto. Mr. Lamar, do you really know how to play the game? Then tighten up.
I mean, that's America for you, right? Like, you can't do this. You can't do that. Why
Shut
are you
up
wearing
and
your hair like
dribble.
that? Shut up and dribble.
Yeah,
right?
But
But ironically, whenever Harrison Bucker said that shit, the right was they were all fine with that. But then after the SZA performance, what did Uncle Sam say? He said, "Oh, this is great. No, this is what this is what Whitey wants." I mean, he didn't say Whitey. He said, "But this is what Whitey wants. Just be able to be nice and be calm and be cool." And like that's what they tell us, right? They tell us that we have to be a certain way. We have to be docile, we have to be respectful. And I try to tell people, like, most of the time, and at least for me, I'm gonna speak for myself and a few other brothers that I know out here. But like I always try to tell, white folks, like, do you think the way we talk to you is the real way we talk? And they're like, yeah. I mean, it's like, no, that's not the way we talk amongst ourselves is totally different. We have a whole separate language, and that fucks their brain up. Because they think that's the real version of us.
Is there another part of this?
Right after the
next, I'm gonna jump to the see what he says here. I don't really remember this part.
Oh yeah. This part was good too.
The old culture cheat code. Scorekeeper, deduct one life.
Whew.
Yeah, that was loaded.
Oh man. Because that's the game, and it is a cheat code, right? Black folks, because they know that when we come together, our community, that's where we derive our power from. And anytime we do that, the Black Panther Party or any sort of groups of us come, they start killing us, right? They'll kill one of us to put us back in our place. But what did he say? Scorekeeper, deduct one life. I thought that was powerful. What did you think about that part?
Exactly what you said. I mean, it's like and I forgot who it was that did the analysis, and they said they felt like it was like when you took away Martin Luther King, right?
Yes, correct.
Because and anytime there's been somebody who starts to gain power, and not power
Marcus Garvey,
not like but actual get the community motivated,
influence,
self-sufficiency. Right, the Black Panthers were all right. We're gonna pick ourselves up by the bootstrap, and you get people motivated, starting to listen,
educated, right?
And then they cut it off. They cut off the leaders, Malcolm X, Fred
And
Hampton.
if you think about it, you had John Lewis was on the no-fly list until 2004. John Lewis, he was in Congress.
So are we headed that direction again?
Probably,
but
we can't be afraid of that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like that's the thing is, when we talk about how our leaders acted, and I think about my time as Democratic Party chair, and like me trying to get more white people to do more bold and think more aggressive things. They always tell me about their fear. And I didn't have the language until I've had a fallout with some folks, but the past couple of weeks. But I've been thinking about it. I'm like, we've always moved regardless of the threat. We've always came together to do what was right, to come out and demand our humanity, even if some of us got killed, even if some of us got hosed down, right? Those fire hoses down in Birmingham, They said if it was 50 feet away from a brick wall, it could knock the mortar off bricks 50 feet, 100 feet from a brick wall. They were shooting 12 and 14-year-olds from 50 feet. 50 feet. At 100 feet, it knocks mortar off bricks. 50 feet to children. And we still came out, right? So, but I'm thinking, because I read a book called "You Have to Be Prepared to Die Before you can begin to live," and that was a line from Walter Abernathy down in the civil rights movement in the 1950s. But the point of those leaders back then was to, like, the threat wasn't any worse. I mean, it wasn't any less, excuse me. But the point of the leaders like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Huey P. Newton, we can name them all, that were all maligned. Robert F. Williams here in Monroe, was not to erase the threat, but it was to tell the people that there will be pain, there will be a threat. That I mean, you could die, you could be jailed, you could be lose your livelihood, but it's worth it for the other side of that. That's the point of the leader. Now, what a lot of white people are looking for is just the easy way all the way through. That I don't want to be inconvenienced or harmed at all the entire time. Martin Luther King had to tell people, Malcolm X had to tell people, look, you might get jailed, you might get shot, you might, have your house firebombed, but it's worth it because, and it wasn't that simplistic what I'm saying, but there was long bromides and speeches, right? But like, it was worth it on the other side.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to try to wrap it up here, but and this is why I'm saying, like, this isn't just our fight alone. This isn't the civil rights fight for Black Americans.
Right.
This isn't a fight for Latino Americans or Chinese American, everyone, indigenous. This isn't that.
For all of
this
us.
This isn't a racial war. Yes, it's an element, but this is a fight for America's identity, the promise of America, the promise of America's democracy, the promise that this idea that we've had of America, and we can either fight for that or we can succumb to it, but this isn't our fight alone. So this is what I'm talking about, that I hope to see white Americans step into the fight,
specifically, right?
Get on the front lines in various ways.
Very much so.
Join the Target boycotts. Join Hakeem
Yes.
Jeffries, or not Hakeem Jeffries. He's not at the front door. Join Maxwell Frost. At the
Maxine Waters
and Maxine like you said, she's 80-something years old. She's out there. Come on. Join the AOCs, join the Jasmine Crockett's. And I'm starting to see Chris Murphy and a few others, Blumenthal, but I need to see, like, the people and Indivisible. Like, I was when I was out there in Charlotte, protesting.
They're mad at Indivisible. They're mad at them.
There's mostly white people. What I'm saying is, like, this isn't our fight to fight. Like, Kendrick, that was a message that was heard to the people,
to wake
that
people up,
needed to hear it, that understood it.
Yeah.
That are ready to fight, but it's not our fight alone. This isn't our fight alone.
That's right.
So,
man. But it was a great show, man, and some of the fallout, folks. He's not a revolutionary, and it's kind of the infighting. It's like, y'all, like, one, like, especially the racist white people, they had a tizzy. I'm sure you've seen the memes and folks been like, "What was this about?" Ooh, I didn't understand the word he said.
The initial reaction was, "Oh, this is the red, white, and the blue."
Okay, I like it.
Yeah,
right.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they started to learn that there were some subliminals, and I always find it interesting that, like, rap.
Wait a minute.
It's like, do y'all ever look at poetry? Do you look at, like, literature?
Come on.
Like,
Do racist white people look at poetry? They might look at it. They don't read it.
Like,
Come on,
do people watch, like, when they watch the movie, like, when they watch a movie, do they look at it, like, beyond the surface?
They're watching movies like, fucking, what's that movie about that fake movie about the guy that was saving people from sex trafficking? That was a lie. Like the Sound of Freedom or whatever the fuck that movie was. Yeah, that's they're watching propaganda, right? Fox News films. Like, that's the shit they're watching. Like, oh, I like that movie about the Faith Family Football is my favorite movie. Like, so yeah, like again, but to be privileged is you don't have to have nuance. You don't have to have a deeper understanding. You don't have to have self-awareness. We do. That's how we survive. And what Kendrick did was what we all do every day in a white supremacist society is we subvert the system the best we can. So folks were like, oh, he's still a capitalist, he still got paid. Well, look, somebody was gonna do that fucking show. Somebody was gonna do the show. And he did it within the parameters of what he could. I mean, I'm like, what did y'all expect him to do? Throw a fucking Molotov cocktail at Donald Trump's face? Like, no, that wasn't gonna happen. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like
we'll leave it at that. Thank you everyone for oh, sorry, my sound is messed up. I didn't realize you were still talking.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
We've been struggling all night.
I'm just saying,
not everyone can hear you fine. It's my headphones.
Hope so. Are those wireless?
Please, what's that?
Are your headphones wireless?
Yeah, I had computer issues this week, still recovering. But everyone, he did. Please like, subscribe. We actually made it up to 260 views live on a Thursday, which is actually the highest. I don't know where we went viral at. We're not viral, but like
we appreciate y'all.
Us. Yeah, and we want to continue getting the word out, and we're going to have people on the show. We got Dr. Kimberly Hardy again coming on Sunday. She'll join us. She's the second vice chair in North Carolina. Currently.
Running for re-election?
The Democratic Party. Yep, running for re-election. And we have some other guests coming up in the next weeks. So
we're booking them, man. Excited. Folks are like, yo, I'm trying to get on this double R. And I ain't talking about Rough Riders.
Yeah, all right, y'all. That's it. Folks around town, they're like, hey, yeah, I can't wait. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Signing off. I'm going to bed.